This loss was just embarrassing. And this was the most embarrassing loss in the most embarrassing game of the season. Like, the Sixers had an all-around great season. I mean, Joel Embiid won MVP. James Harden played really well. He was almost the league leader in assists. And now what do we have? We have another second round exit. And honestly, I don't think the Sixers can do anything from here. So I'm going to break down what happened this season that made it fail and what the Sixers can do. And let me tell you one thing, it's a pretty limited list of options. But before I break all of that down, I want to talk about James Harden. Because honestly, I would not doubt it if he just leaves the Sixers this offseason. I mean, the Sixers don't have much of a direction, and, James Harden doesn't want to be there. There are no other good players except for Joel Embiid on that team. Remember back on Christmas Day, hours before the Sixers had a game against the New York Knicks, there were reports that James Harden wants to go back to Houston, and those reports continued throughout the whole season. And honestly, it's never seemed more accurate except for now. And in this game against the Celtics, James Harden shot 3 for 11 from the field. He only scored 9 points, and he turned the ball over 5 times. And as a team, the Sixers shot 37% from the field and only hit 22% from 3. So if I'm James Harden, I'm mad right now, and I want to leave this dying organization. But James Harden actually claims otherwise. He says that he hasn't even thought about the future yet, and he's not sure where he wants to take his talents next to. You LeBron fans will know what I'm talking about. Now, Embiid said nothing about James Harden's situation, which is pretty interesting. I mean, he said, I don't know what's going on, and I know he has a player option so they can extend him. That's on the guys from the front office to figure it out. I'm going to stay out of it. He said, I'm going to stay out of it. So it doesn't sound like he's too happy with James either. So I don't know. The dynamic there is kind of weird. And even though they're two greatly talented players, they just had no help. Which brings me to my next point. Joel Embiid literally said that he can't do this without any help. And this is kind of ironic considering that he wasn't even the leading scorer in Game 7. And neither was James Harden. It was actually, believe it or not, Tobias Harris, who was followed by Tyrese Maxey, who was followed by Joel Embiid, but then James Harden isn't next. PJ Tucker is next with 11 points, and James Harden, all the way down there as one of the worst on his team, had 9 points in 41 minutes. Honestly, guys, this is just embarrassing. And the next thing I want to talk about is, did Joel Embiid deserve his MVP? Because I think at this point, everyone knows that a pretty big reason why Joel Embiid got his MVP is because of Kendrick Perkins' propaganda a few months ago. And I won't go too deep into it because I don't want to be controversial, but Kendrick Perkins said something about race influences MVP voting. And I'm not going to share my opinions on this matter, but that's what he said. And because of that, a lot of voters voted for Joel Embiid over Nikola Jokic. So, I mean, Nikola Jokic played better in the regular season. That's for sure. That's 100% certain. He's playing better in the playoffs. And I know that MVP isn't a playoff award, but let's have that into consideration. And, I mean, just because he's already won 2 in a row, that doesn't mean he shouldn't win another one. But what can I say? I don't have a vote for these stuff. But we can't talk about the Sixers' pretty bad end to the season without mentioning just about the second greatest game in Game 7 playoff history behind Steph Curry's 50-piece. You had Jason Tatum, who put up 51 and 13 in this game. He was absolutely dominant. After all the haters turned on him, he shut them up. He just bounced right back, dropping a 51-point game, which, as a Warriors fan, I think he stat padded at the end, but that's just me. Next, we're going to talk about the coach who caused all of this, and that's Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers is really an interesting coach. I mean, I could make a whole video about him, but basically, he's hopped a lot around teams in his time, and he's a really good coach, but he's just not always a winner. I mean, he's lost 10 game 7s in his career, which is the most in NBA history by 6. That's including players. Like, that kind of makes you worried, which makes me wonder, will the Sixers even re-sign him? I mean, he says that he's planning to be the Sixers coach for the next 2 years at the very least, but I mean, if I'm the Sixers, I am firing that man because something that he's doing is obviously not working out. And to wrap up this video, I'm going to take a quote from Tobias Harris, what he said when the Sixers lost by 24 points in such a big game. He said, I don't know why this happened in such a big matchup, but I'm disappointed in my team. We have to be better. That's going to be all for today's, and I mean, if you guys want to watch my most recent video, it's popping up on screen right now. I'll see you in that one.